All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pat's Pulpit pregame preview playoff edition. It is wild card weekend. Chiefs, Texans, Steelers, Bengals. Absolute madness today. Saturday, not the Sunday slate of games. Pats are off. It's still playoffs. Should be a really good day. Getting ready to watch some football with some hydration. Should be fun. Rich Hill, how are you, buddy? Rich, really? We lost you already? Whoa! That's right. Rich Hill is live. He's in New York. We're together for the first time in God knows how long. It is a inaugural day here at Pat's Pulpit. Rich Hill, here we find ourselves. It is a pregame preview for the ages.
It's a beautiful day.
We'll see how this works.
It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful January. Rich Hill's in my apartment. Never thought I'd see the day.
I'm very, very happy to be here. It's a beautiful apartment. Alec probably makes around the same amount as Tom Brady, so it's about a 14-bedroom apartment, 6-bath, own private roof. His help is out in the front, so we'll stay away for today. But I'm happy to be here.
No, it's good to have you here, man. I wish I was sitting as high as you were, but you know what? That's the kind of host I am. I give Rich the high chair.
This is as low as it goes. This is as low as it goes.
That's all right. So let's get into it, man. It's 3 o'clock. We're about an hour and a half out from the Texans-Chiefs game. I think that the Texans are the 3-point. It's +3. I think the Vegas line right now, which is interesting. I don't know. What do you got on this game, Rich?
So my thought on this one is I guess every single road team is the favorite this week. And so I think that, as we think, every single road team should win. And with this game specifically, with the Chiefs and the Texans, the Chiefs are riding a hot streak. They've won 10 in a row. The Texans, they kind of stumbled. I know that they just got Brian Hoyer back, their quarterback, because he's been injured. He's got head injuries most of the season. He's kind of back and forth. But I think this is the healthiest that the Texans will be. I know that they won't have Arian Foster at running back because he's out for the year. I think it's kind of typical for him. But I think just in general, the Texans are the healthiest they'll be. I think the Chiefs are riding a high, and that's why they're favored. But I don't want to sleep on Texans. I really think that Houston has a legitimate chance of winning.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a home team, home game. Texans a good place to play. Chiefs defense is nasty. Kansas City defense is nasty. It should be a very low-scoring game, I'm guessing. The situation here for me is Brian Hoyer versus Alex Smith. I think Alex Smith gets the edge there. He's the master of that 4-yard out pass.
How sad is that?
Yeah, no, it's true. I can see this game as kind of low scoring, a scenario where Hoyer makes a few mistakes, Smith makes none. Smith's a better scrambler than Hoyer is. I guess the real question mark is Andy Reid. Did he wake up today and realize I'm coaching in a playoff game? If that's the case, Casey may be in trouble.
Yeah, I think that Andy Reid's really, really good at coaching for the first 58 minutes of any given game. So when they come to that final 2-minute drill and the Chiefs have the lead, I wouldn't be surprised if Alex Smith threw 3 passes, they left some time on the clock, and then DeAndre Hopkins runs for a 75-yard touchdown. But you kind of look at the strengths of both of those teams. And on the offensive side of the ball, who do you really hate? For the Chiefs, they have Jeremy Maclin at wide receiver, and they have Travis Kelce at tight end. They kind of have technically Charkandrick West at running back. He's no Jamal Charles, but they're really just a 2 offensive weapon offense over with Kansas City. But on the Houston side of the ball, they have DeAndre Hopkins and
Alfred Blue.
Yeah, right. They don't have much going on with them. And specifically when you add in the fact that Alex Smith is a mediocre quarterback and then Brian Hoyer is probably a sub-mediocre quarterback, I really think that the edge has to go to the Chiefs in this one.
No, I agree with that. Plus, Alex Smith's a really good scrambler. I think that's the third option they have. Jeremy Maclin was statistically the most reliable hands in the NFL this year, which is amazing to me. That Maclin, the receiver, is actually that's great. So yeah, I think offensively the Chiefs win this game. Defensively is probably where the fun matchup is. Texans defense versus Chiefs defense. If you're the Chiefs defense, how do you attack this Texans offense?
I mean, I think that the Chiefs defense specifically is pretty banged up. All of their edge rushers are kind of hurt. Justin Houston's battling injury. Tamba Hali is battling an injury. So it comes down to how well they can pressure Brian Hoyer to make a mistake. Because looking at the depth of this Chiefs defense, they have a very good secondary. Eric Berry is one of the top safeties in the league. Marcus Peters, I think he's very, very much overrated, but he is a rookie. And if they double up with the safety and Marcus Peters, they should be able to at least Hopkins, and that would force Brian Hoyer to win with Nate Washington or whoever their white slot receiver is. And so I think that if the defense matches up well, it'll come down to how healthy this defensive pass rush can be for Kansas City. And personally, I think that they'll be able to find enough to make it work. They have enough pass rushers. D Ford is there as well. They have Dontari Poe, who's their monster nose tackle up in the middle. So I think that the Chiefs have enough on defense with Derek Johnson at linebacker. They have enough players there to severely limit this Texans offense.
Now I'm with you on that. So to flip that around now, it's the Texans defense versus the Chiefs offense. More weapons like we just talked about. Smith's the kind of guy, he can scramble for yards. He's going to get you some first downs on the scramble and the broken plays. So So how do you contain Alex Smith in this high-powered Chiefs passing game? Those
high-powered, right?
Those dink and dunk, Pennington-esque 68-play, 15-yard drives that take off like 9 minutes off the clock and then touchdowns. How do you stop those?
It's hard to stop those. I mean, I think that the Texans, they really have to hope that their pass rush can make it home. They have J.J. Watt, who will always be a monster. Whitney Merciless has been very, very productive. He was just named Defensive Player of the Month for the final block of the season. They have, I guess, Jadeveon Clowney, who's okay. He's kind of hurt.
He's out today, actually.
Oh, really?
Just saw the preview. He's out today. Yeah.
Never mind. So they don't have Jadeveon Clowney. So it's really just Merciless, and then they have Watt. And those are going to be the guys that they really have to rely on to limit this Chiefs team. I don't know if they have enough firepower, but I will say if Watt is able to take over this game and just completely abuse this Kansas City Chiefs offensive line, then I really think that the Texans, they mirror the Patriots. They know how to handle these scrambling quarterbacks. They know that, you know what, we're not going to sell out on the pass rush. We're going to do our best to contain Alex Smith in the pocket. We're going to try and press up our coverage right here. They have some talented cornerbacks. They have rookie Kevin Johnson, who's I would actually say is better than Marcus Peters. They have some talent there where they can press up against Macklin. They can limit him. And then that would force Alex Smith to try and win by throwing deep. And I don't think that the Chiefs would be able to move the ball and sustain a drive if the Texans take away all those dink and dunks within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, that makes sense. The Chiefs are not like an explosive play offense. They're not the big play kind of thing. They're smart. They're consistent. And they just drive slowly down the field and wear you down. It's worked for them very well. 10 straight game wins. So we'll see what happens there. Now, Patriots are home, obviously enjoying the bye week, getting healthy, hopefully, watching this game. If you are the Patriots front office, you're the coaching staff, you're watching the Houston Texans play the Chiefs right now, what are you looking for and what weaknesses are you looking to exploit?
If I'm just watching, I don't really want to face either of those teams this week. I think that the Texans would be the easiest matchup, but I think that in my rooting guide this morning, I had a little bit of a reservation with naming the Texans as the team that I wanted to win, because my issue with that is if the Texans win, and then what happens if the Bengals finally pull out their first playoff victory? That means that the Patriots have to play the Bengals, and then the Broncos, they get a home game against the Texans, which I think there's zero doubt in anyone's mind that the Broncos would win that one. And that's literally the only matchup out of these wild card potential victors that the Broncos would have a decidedly handed victory over, because the Chiefs are another one of their possible opponents, and then the Steelers are the other one. And both of those teams have wins over the Broncos this year. So I think that if I'm the Patriots, I know that you said, what would I be looking for and everything like that. I'd be looking for the Chiefs to actually come away with a victory. And I think if the Chiefs come away with a victory, I think that they actually have a very similar offense to the Texans, where you're looking at both of these quarterbacks. They're kind of limited in their physical ability. They're not guys that'll have their big arms to win down the field. But you really want to look at how these quarterbacks and how these offenses utilize their offensive weapons so you can try and limit them the subsequent week. And so, as we listed them, you have DeAndre Hopkins for the Texans, and then you have Macklin and Kelsey for the Chiefs. And you watch how the Texans, who run a fairly similar type of style, Romeo Crennel is their defensive coordinator, former Patriots defensive coordinator. So you see how they try to stop them, and then you try and emulate it a little bit if they're successful, or just completely avoid it if they can't handle it.
Makes a lot of sense. And like I said, this game's we're not gonna know the results until the Patriots watch the Steelers play the Bengals afterwards, because the Bengals-Steelers game will decide who plays who in the next round. There's enough transition into the night game. More exciting game, in my opinion. Really pumped for Bengals-Steelers. I always find that the divisional matchups are the best ones of Wild Card Weekend. They're a lot of fun to watch. Bengals-Steelers split on the year. Bengals are banged up. Andy Dalton is out. He's healthier. The cast is off, so he might be back next week. Who knows? But the Steelers are riding hot. They're coming in on a huge win and a Jets loss to sneak into the playoffs. So initial thoughts and impressions of this game, Rich. What do you think about Steelers-Bengals?
You know, I think that the Steelers had a really, really interesting run into the playoffs, because there's a stretch of 4 weeks where they were the team that no one wanted to see. They were the team that came off and they beat the Bengals. They came out and beat the Broncos. Then all of a sudden they go out and lose to the Ravens, and then no one's afraid of them anymore. And I think that's kind of the team is in the middle. I think that they are good enough to beat the Bengals. They're good enough to beat the Broncos. They're good enough to beat an injured Patriots team, which is very possible who they'll play. But I think that of these two teams, I would actually say that the Bengals are slightly better if they have Andy Dalton. They don't have that. A.J. McCarron is going to be starting. And then the Steelers, they're not going to have running back D'Angelo Williams this week. And so both teams are hurt, losing key players on both of their offenses. And so I think this will be a kind of a match of which team can stay healthier, which team can utilize the healthy players on their team. And to be honest, I kind of lean towards whichever team has the best quarterback.
Yes, I'll use that to get ahead of myself for a second, then we'll bring it back, Rich. You talk about how Andy Dalton's out today. Maybe, hopefully, he'll be back next week should the Bengals beat the Steelers. That begs the question, which there's a lot of Patriots fans of mine, myself included, can you miss significant time and then all of a sudden just come back in to a playoff game, say you're a wide receiver or a linebacker or something like that? If you can,
hypothetically,
just kind of throwing it out there. If you miss a lot of time in the regular season and all of a sudden you're thrust into a divisional matchup against a good opponent, can you pick up the offense no problem and just get yourself right back in there and be an effective weapon?
Well,
like Dalton can.
Exactly. Well, I think it comes down to whether or not a player can be 100%. And I feel like we've seen it enough over the course of the season where the Patriots took special care to sit their certain players out for possibly an extra week of time. They didn't want to rush them back. And so you saw with Jamie Collins, he had his illness in the middle of the season. They held him out 2 extra weeks more than he needed to. All the reports said that he could have been ready to play if need be, but they just didn't call on his number. And so I think that the Patriots, they're kind of doing their best to limit or put these players in the best possible situation to succeed. And still, Jamie Collins took a week or 2 to get back to 100%. And we saw with Danny Amendola with his knee injury. He kind of re-injured it right away. We don't want Edelman to hurt himself, but Gronkowski was limited. Scott Chandler was limited. Even when they brought back the tackles, Marcus Cannon came back from his toe injury. Sebastian Vollmer came back from his concussion. They kind of limit how they come back. They're not 100%, clearly. And I think that if I'm the Patriots, this entire back half of the season, we've been trying to convince ourselves that these players are going to be the solution. They're going to be the key for this offense. But I feel like the elephant in the room no one wants to talk about is what happens if they're not 100%. And statistically speaking, they're probably not going to be.
I mean, no one's 100% at this time of the year anyway, regardless of your health level. But that's, again, getting ahead of myself. That imagines a Pittsburgh loss today. Cincinnati wins. Andy Dalton could be done regardless of how healthy he is next week if the Bengals can't get it done at home against Pittsburgh. How do you feel? Are you confident if you're Cincinnati? Pittsburgh's coming to town. The third time you're seeing them this year. 3 times is a lot to face one team. Are you there? Like you said, D'Angelo Williams is out. They're still kind of banged up. Pittsburgh's not great defensively right now. Their offense is pretty hot. Antonio Brown is probably the best receiver in the league right now. And him and Roethlisberger, you can really see their rapport, their chemistry whenever they connect. So he's going to have his yards no matter what. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals defense, can you stop this D'Angelo Williams-less Pittsburgh offense?
I think you can. I really think you can. And personally, I think it'd be absolutely hilarious if Marvin Lewis, the head coach of the Bengals, gets his first playoff victory with A.J. McCarron and Dalton's not there. That would be the greatest possible outcome, I think. And then they have a quarterback controversy next week, possibly. Would that be a thing? If we don't know if Dalton's 100%, McCarron gets them their first playoff victory. Marvin Lewis is the second longest tenured head coach in the NFL behind only Bill Belichick. I believe he was hired in 2003. He has 0 playoff victories. They've made it 6 times, and they've been one and done 6 times. And so I don't know. I personally don't know, just based off of the history alone, what's going to happen with this game. But I think that the Bengals, they have a really strong roster. I think that they've been the healthiest team in the entire league. They lost Andy Dalton for a couple weeks there. It was actually against the last Steelers game. That's when he went down with an injury with his hand. But beyond missing those couple of games with Dalton, they haven't really lost many key players to injury. And I think that when they come out, we'll see the 100% Bengals. I think that, well, Dalton excluded, but I think they have enough talent on both sides of the ball where they can go toe-to-toe with any team in this league. And when it comes to stopping the wide receivers for the Steelers, I mean, you got Antonio Brown, who's very, very good, Martavis Bryant, and then they have Marcus Wheaton. Those are 3 really talented wide receivers. Very few teams have the depth to match up one-on-one with them. I would even say that they got the better hand of the Broncos when they played them. So I don't know if there's a better trio of cornerbacks in the league. So the Bengals will definitely have their hands full.
No, for sure. But the problem is obviously no D'Angelo Williams, no Le'Veon Bell. The running back situation is terrible.
Jordan
Todman. I don't think anyone's scared of him. Although this is the kind of game I can see Todman having like 200 yards just because this is the NFL. And like, why not? You know, but
especially against the division rival.
Yeah, I mean, that's wild card weekend. That's why we love it. But I think that the Bengals are obviously very happy D'Angelo Williams is hurt. It always sucks to see an injury, but from a mercenary perspective of a playoff team looking to get a first playoff victory, you want as little healthy guys out there as possible. But it is crazy though if you're Marvin Lewis. It's like, okay, I either go 0-7 in the playoffs, that's on one hand, or I go 1-6 with my backup quarterback who I didn't invest any time in. So either way, not the best look for old Marv, but that's not our problem. All right, so Pittsburgh defense versus Cincinnati offense. Pittsburgh has had the weak link in their defensive side of the ball. They really miss Troy Polamalu. Their safeties are not good. Their cornerbacks are okay. Their pass rush isn't great. That's really their Achilles heel. We saw it in spades in New England to open the season. They forgot to cover Rob Gronkowski a couple times. It's improved since then, but not much, Rich. AJ Green, Tyler Eifert, good tight ends, good running backs, strong offensive line, a quarterback who's been competent at worst. I think A.J. McCarron's done everything asked of him and more. So how do you stop the Cincinnati offense if you're on the road in Pittsburgh right now?
I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know how the Steelers can try to stop this offense. I think they really have to try and limit what McCarron can do. I think that of all of the players on this Bengals offense, I mean, they have A.J. Green, they have Mohamed Sanu, they have Marvin Jones, I believe. They have just a lot of talented wide receivers. They have Eifert at tight end. Then they have Giovanni Bernard and then Jeremy Hill at running back. They have everyone. They have a strong offensive line. And then the Steelers, they don't have a good defense. The Steelers' defense is not good. And they're going to have their hands full. So their only saving grace, their only chance to possibly leave here with a victory is if McCarron makes mistakes and they're able to capitalize on them. And I don't think that if McCarron plays a good game, I don't think that the Steelers can come away with a win here. I don't think that they can stop this Bengals offense well enough that the offense of the Steelers can compensate for it. I think that the best battle of this game will be the Steelers offense versus the Bengals defense. That's going to be a dogfight. But when it comes to the other side of the ball, I think that the Bengals offense has a clean victory over the Steelers defense.
No, I'm with you there. And we talked about a low scoring game in Houston today, probably a higher scoring game for sure. I can see this being a shootout with both teams just throwing the ball down the field. I feel like Pittsburgh's going to be of the opinion our defense won't be able to stop Cincy forever. We got to score a lot of points and make sure, like the Patriots 2011, 2012, we have to like outscore the other team and rely on our defense to come up with some big turnovers, which, as we know all too well, is not the most fun way to watch a game. But what are you going to do? But it sounds to me, Rich, like you are maybe not confident, but you can definitely foresee that nightmare scenario happening where the Texans win and the Bengals win and the Texans go to Denver and Cincy comes to New England. You see that as like a legit possibility, it sounds like.
I do. I mean, looking at all of these games, I don't think that there's a clear-cut winner. And I think that there's a reason why the road teams are favorited. You have the quarterback situation in Cincinnati. So as a result, you always go with the better head coach and the better quarterback. And that's Mike Tomlin of the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger, way better than Marvin Lewis and then A.J. McCarron. So I can see why they're the favorite. They just beat them. So that's not too far of a stretch. I see why the Chiefs are. They've won 10 straight. The Texans aren't that great. They beat up on the bad teams. They lose to the good ones. So it's really a question whether or not the Chiefs actually should be considered a good team. And I honestly do think that there is a situation, though, where both of the home teams win. And I think that they won their divisions for a certain reason. I think that the Texans have enough talent. Maybe they're not the best team. I don't think that they even really have a shot at the Super Bowl. But I think they have enough talent if Alex Smith throws a turnover, if the Texans are able to stop that Chiefs offense, then I don't really see how the Chiefs can win unless this is like a 6-3 final score. And I think that there is a very good chance that Bill O'Brien, head coach of the Texans, former Patriots offensive coordinator, I think he can go out, help build a really, really great game plan against them. And you know what? If they get a big play or two, I don't see why they can't win that.
Yeah, sure. And if you are the Patriots, obviously we cannot play Pittsburgh next week, regardless of the one team and left of the playoffs. The Patriots will definitely not face. So that's out. But if you're the Patriots watching this game tonight, what are you looking for? Are you looking for weaknesses in the Bengals offense or Bengals defense? You know the Steelers defense is weak, but you also know the Patriots offense is a question mark coming into this. So what are going to be your big takeaways as the Patriots coaching staff watching this Bengals Steelers game?
You know, as you said, they're the only team they can face will be the Bengals out of this game. And I think that you watch the Bengals, they haven't played this year. They haven't done that. And I think that the Patriots really want to take their time, evaluate a team that they haven't played yet. I mean, they hadn't played the Chiefs yet either, but they played them last year. So I think that if I'm Bill Belichick, I'm watching how the Bengals utilize all of their skill players. But actually, I want to look more on their defensive side of the ball. I want to see how they try to match up against these three wide receivers of the Steelers. I want to see how they try and maybe they'll entice the Steelers to win with Jordan Todman. Because to be quite honest, the Steelers have a pretty similar running back situation to the Patriots. I think that the quality of running back is very, very different. Le'Veon Bell is a top 2 running back in the entire league when he's healthy. D'Angelo Williams ran all over the Patriots defense in the opening week, and he was doing fairly well this season. And he'll be back next week if they continue on. But they're down their top 2 running backs, and then they're using their depth guy with Jordan Todman. And I don't really see how good those players are. But the Patriots are not a better situation with Dion Lewis on the injured reserve and LeGarrette Blount. They're both done for the year. So if you watch the Bengals defense and they're out there and they're like, you know what, Steelers, we're going to drop 8 back into coverage. We're going to triple team Antonio Brown. We're going to double team Martavis Bryant. We're not going to let you use any of your wide receivers. Try and win with Jordan Todman. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals, if they continue on to the next round, if they would deploy that same sort of defensive strategy.
Yeah, I'd do that as well. And why not? We talked about how, I think on the Wednesday podcast, the Thursday podcast this week, Rich, we talked about kind of ideal situations. And ideal situations sees Pittsburgh winning tonight, Houston winning today, and then Houston coming to New England, Pittsburgh going to Denver. There's really no team in the AFC right now that scares me at all from a Patriots fan, even including Denver. But there are teams that you'd rather face earlier. And I think the Texans are a team we'd all love to face. And I think that's very possible. But I also feel like a Chiefs win and a Bengals win would probably set up better for getting Denver the hell out of the playoffs, because I think the Chiefs are just custom built to just beat them. They should have beaten them twice this past season. That ridiculous last-minute fumble cost them the game, and they just destroyed them the second time they played. So the Chiefs going to Denver, I love that matchup.
You really think the Chiefs have a better chance of beating the Broncos than the Steelers do?
I do, personally, yes. I do, because I think the Chiefs defense is lights out. They know them much better. They've already played them twice this year. They should have beaten them both times. Confidence has to be sky high. I mean, they will always be known as the team that benched Peyton Manning. Like, that's just what they did it. I know they're also the team he broke the record against, but then he immediately got banned for throwing 50 million picks. So it's all good. And so I think they have that mentality. They have a mental edge. And that defense is just built to go to Denver. They know how to play there. They're familiar with Mile High Stadium. So I'd rather see the Chiefs go to Denver and the Texans win this game because then Cincy come to New England, because I think the Chiefs is the best team besides New England to knock Denver out.
So do you think that the Patriots have a good chance of beating the Bengals next week if potentially Dalton is back and then the Patriots are going to start getting their players back? Do you think that the Patriots have a really good chance of winning?
We're on to Cincinnati, Rich. I think that still applies completely to this season. I do like the matchup. Again, it really does depend on Andy Dalton, but again, the question we're not going to be the answer to, will he be ready? And if he is ready, will he be able to get back to form? We just won't know that. But I do like the Patriots' odds here. I mean, I think they'll be able to outscore the Bengals. I do think that the Bengals receiving core that you touched on is a challenge for the New England secondary. But if Chung is back healthy and McCourty is back healthy, which all signs point to yes. Hightower's back healthy, all signs point to yes. Malcolm Butler and Logan Ryan, those are two very solid cornerbacks. I don't know if Justin Coleman will be back, but he hasn't really been much of a factor. But I think there are good matchups on both sides of the ball. The Patriots have a good day against the Bengals. And I also feel like the Bengals matchup there, I think a lot of this game is mental. And the Patriots have a mental edge over Cincinnati. I personally think so. I know they lost them in 2013 on the road in the rain there, but I think the Patriots can come in there and they can really handle the business against Cincinnati. And the only team that genuinely scares me in this playoffs, even though no one really does, but the one team I actually would probably least want to face is a really hot Steelers team, honestly. And the only way that happens is if it comes to the AFC Championship games in New England. I still like those odds. But if the Steelers can beat the Bengals and the Broncos en route to a New England AFC Championship game, that means they're doing a lot of things right, and something I probably would be a little nervous about.
And to be fair, they actually did that already this year. Back-to-back games, I think it was week 13 and 14 or 14 and 15. They won back-to-back against those same exact teams. So if they're able to come into the playoffs and do it, that'd be an absolutely good sign that they are a legitimate team. But for me personally, I want to see the Houston Texans there because the Patriots are going to be rusty. We opened up this show with that, where Edelman's coming back from an injury. Rob Gronkowski, I know he's not on the injury report, but he's still kind of banged up. Danny Amendola's hurt. Steven Jackson's still brand new to this team. Sebastian Vollmer will be new, and he'll be back again. And on the defensive side of the ball, Ninkovich will hopefully be a little bit healthier. Chandler Jones will be back. They'll have Donta Hightower back. Patrick Chung and Devin McCourty returned last week, but they clearly weren't 100%. They definitely struggled a little bit, so hopefully they'll be closer to perfect on that one. I think that if I'm looking at the potential opponents, the Texans are the one team that the Patriots can go in there, have a rough draft type of game, and still leave with a victory. So that for me, that's why I would feel confident playing against them. But as you said, if the Texans win, I don't really feel that confident either way when it comes time for the Bengals versus the Steelers. And the absolute worst possible scenario would be if the Texans won because, oh, look how great it will be for the Patriots to have this soft little opening round. And then the Bengals come out and win. And then Andy Dalton comes back and the Patriots have to have the rough draft against one of the best defenses in the entire league.
Yeah. I mean, all the possible outcomes of today's game, the one that sees the Texans losing allows the best chance of a Denver Broncos elimination next round. Another Peyton Manning one and done, which is that would be I don't know. Here's something else I'll talk about now because I'm having some conflicting thoughts right now, Rich. If Peyton Manning were to come back and have like a really good postseason and like make it, maybe even beat New England and go to the Super Bowl, I'd kind of be rooting for him. And I feel really weird thinking about that, but like to watch him, like he's done, he's washed up, he's a great player. you want to see a guy kind of go out on top. You don't want to see some guy like limp out with his massive forehead and his steroid scandal. And like, I don't know. I feel like Manning, like I'd be rooting for him. Is that weird?
Kind of. I would definitely say it's weird. I mean, like if he goes out there into the Super Bowl and suffers another first play of the game safety, to be fair, if that happened, I would root for another 48-7 game. I think that would be hilarious. I will say though, you know what? I think that as a lot of Patriots fans, there's a lot of concern with how Peyton Manning and how this whole story with the HGH has been handled. I think that there is a general idea that they just want to see Peyton Manning wiped off of the face of the NFL. With that, they want to see him get hammered hard. They don't want to see him have any success. But I mean, if he made the Super Bowl, it would really come down to who they were playing. I mean, if they were playing the Panthers, I would root for the Panthers to win. If they were playing pretty much any team other than like the Seattle Seahawks, to be quite honest, if they were playing the Seahawks, I would root for a redemption story. That's the only possible scenario. Maybe if it was like Aaron Rodgers versus Peyton Manning, I just wouldn't watch. But like if it's Kirk Cousins in there with Washington, I'm rooting for Washington all the way. If they make it all the way there and Kirk Cousins going out there saying, you like that, I'm in the Super Bowl, you like that, then I'm rooting for him. Like the one person who's responsible for the greatest quote of the year, he has my full support. If it's not Washington, then I'll root for the Cardinals a little bit. I think that it'll be nice to see Larry Fitzgerald finally get a trophy. But I think that it really depends on who their opponent is. Right. And it would be a very, very specific scenario to find me winding up rooting for Peyton Manning.
No, again, I feel very weird, but there's something about it's like watching like your greatest enemy. Like, you have these epic battles and it's been like this narrative for 15 years now. And all of a sudden, like he's like hobbling along and like he can't. You almost want to like shoot him in the head, put him like a basket, but
turn him to glue.
Yeah, I will keep my internal struggle going with my Peyton Manning thing. And I'm with you, man. Washington is my NFC team. I love them. They're just fun to watch, and they're like the underdog story. They have nothing to lose. They're playing with house money. That's a great place to be, I think, in the playoffs. They greatly exceeded expectations. I can't imagine any Washington fan is upset how this season has gone. So should be a good game for them. That's going to be a tall order, I think, taking out the Packers in Washington. But they can do it. The Packers just lost to the Vikings. Their offense is pretty terrible now.
The Packers are really bad.
Yeah.
They're like an actually bad team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Packers are, maybe even I have this, there's this residual kind of this mystique around like the Packers. They've been so good for so long, and Aaron Rodgers is everyone's favorite quarterback, and he's the greatest player ever, and we've kind of like stuck that narrative in our head. But yeah, I can see the Skins coming in there and taking care of business for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you look at the NFC, we have the 2 games tomorrow, and that's going to be, I believe, the Seahawks and the Vikings. That's the first game, and then the second game will be Washington Packers. Out of those games, I really see that Seattle's going to win by 30, and I don't think that one's going to be close at all. I think that Adrian Peterson will get absolutely stuffed. The Seahawks, I think, are the hottest team in the league right now. And then you have Washington as well. I think that Washington has a good chance. So in the wild card, this is the first time in NFL history that all 4 road teams are the favorites in wild card weekend. It's never happened before. And my thought is there's no way that the favorite's going to win every single time. So I think that there's going to be at least one home team that pulls off a win. I think Washington would be that one team. I think that they'll come out surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if they got absolutely hammered by the Cardinals in the subsequent week. But I think that they have enough ability to take down this hobbled Packers team. And I don't know. I think that if there's a team that's going to win at home, upset the odds, why wouldn't it be Washington?
Why not indeed? That's as good a transition as I've ever heard to get into predictions for this wild card weekend. Let's start in the NFC because that's kind of how we just close out right now. You have Washington beating the Packers. What's the final score of that game?
I believe that it'll be a relatively low-ish scoring game. I wouldn't be surprised if Washington won 24-17.
I was going to say 21-17. So, all right, 21-17, 24-17. Good picks. I'm not going to write them down because you already beat me in my stupid – this is why you're never generous, folks. Take it all for yourself and be selfish. Like a lesson from all that.
Run up the score.
Yeah, ridiculous. All right, so Washington – we both have Washington winning this game. Seahawks, you said by 30.
Yeah, I think that the Seahawks are going to win this one handily. I'd be surprised if the Vikings broke 13 points. I really think that the Seahawks are going to go out there and win like 38-10 or something like that.
Marshawn Lynch is out with an abdominal injury, but I think it'll be a low score than that. I think 6 points for Vikings. I think they'll go 24-6. It won't be a close game. They're going to come in and just dominate. AFC, this is what we all really care about. First game, Houston Texans hosting Cincinnati Chiefs. What do you got?
I don't know, man. So I've been very, very conflicted with this one. I find it very, very difficult to choose against Vince Wilfork. No matter what, I will be rooting for the Texans, no matter what my prediction is, because I want Vince Wilfork to have another win. It's been heartbreaking watching Logan Mankins just kind of fade away over in Tampa. And I kind of think that Vince Wilfork is the defensive version of Logan Mankins. And so I'm rooting for the Texans. I would love for them to pull out a victory. I just don't know if it's in the cards. I think that this will be a low-scoring game. I think that the final score will be something like Chiefs winning 20-17.
Interesting. I think this game's going to be really close. I think it could very well come down to a final drive, who has the ball last kind of thing. But just the way the Chiefs are, again, my X factor in this whole wild card weekend is Andy Reid. He's not a great postseason coach. I know he had success early in 2000 with the Eagles. They met a couple of NFC Championship games, lost the past Super Bowl. That was a long time ago, and he hasn't really been a good postseason coach since then. It's not all him, obviously, but if he has some stupid game plan, if they're going to keep doing what they're doing, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs winning this game, like a late field goal, 17-14. I'm going really low scoring game with this one.
Interesting.
And then finally, the game of the weekend, in my opinion, Steelers at Cincinnati. What do you got?
I know this is going to be a tough one as well. I think that the AFC games are slightly more difficult to choose than in the NFC. I know who I'd want based off of my projection of the Chiefs winning. I would be very happy to see, I guess, either team out of this one. I think it's very much so a push. I think that you always have to lean towards, as I said, the better quarterback-coach combination, and that goes with the Steelers. So I think that the Steelers manage to pull this one out, and they'll go face the Broncos in the next round. I think that it'll be an interesting game where the game script will kind of go in fluctuation, where it'll be either a defensive standoff in the first half and then just a complete offensive explosion in the second half. And I really think that the Steelers could win this one 27-24.
27-24 Steelers. I'm going with Cincinnati in this one, I think, based mainly on their performance on the Monday night game against the Broncos. I thought they came out of the box swinging, landed some great haymakers, went up 14 or 17 points, and they completely imploded. Hopefully they learned from that. I think they switched to safe mode for some reason, and the Denver defense is infinitely better than the Steeler defense. And if they can do that on the road in Denver against the Denver defense, they should be able to handle the business at home against a pretty atrocious Pittsburgh defense. It's really all about, can the Pittsburgh offense, without much of running game, maintain their offensive firepower against the Cincy defense? That's pretty stout. And I think the answer is no. So I think the Bengals will come to New England next week, and the Chiefs will go to Denver next week. That's what I'm thinking.
I think that's a really good prediction right there. Is that what you would want, though?
Again, I guess the ideal scenario would be Houston and New England and Pittsburgh at Denver. Just again, I think Pittsburgh's the best, one of the best matchups. Although, like I said, the Chiefs are the best team to eliminate the Broncos. And so if you want to be in New England throughout the AFC playoffs, you want the Chiefs going to Denver. So I'm going to say no, actually. As much as I'd like to play Houston for that warm-up game, I'd rather be rusty against Cincinnati and grind it out. That'd be a much bigger, I think, morality-boosting victory. If you get a game against the Broncos, you're like, didn't even play our best game, still beat Cincy. That's huge versus, we beat the Texans. It's the AFC South. So hopefully everything I said plays out, and the Chiefs go into Denver and wipe the floor with them.
Okay, you made a point earlier that Andy Reid is your coach of the week.
Yes.
Who is your person of the week? For all those wild card games, who will you have your eyes on more than anyone else?
I think, honestly, I'm going to be watching Justin Houston, mainly because he's a blast to watch. He's a great player. I haven't watched too much Chiefs football, like a game start to finish. I see a lot of highlights, and I've gone back and watched game tape during the week, but I haven't really watched the Chiefs play that much live. And I think Justin Houston's the kind of guy that can just absolutely dominate the Texans offensive line. And to watch him just run and wreak havoc over Brian Hoyer it'll be sad because, the Patriots South, you always have a soft spot in your heart for those guys. But I love watching Justin Houston. But I'll also say from like a personnel kind of football standpoint, the guy to make the biggest impact, it's got to be J.J. Watt. I think J.J. Watt for the Houston Texans, he's got to have a huge day if they're going to have any hope of winning this game. Take Alex Smith and just beat him up, make him think twice on running the ball. And so J.J. Watt, you better get after it today.
Oh, that's a good choice. I think that I'll go with the NFC side of things. I think that Aaron Rodgers is really going to be the key for the NFC in this one. He hasn't been good at all this year, really. He's really struggled with missing Jordy Nelson. The running game completely evaporated with Eddie Lacy not really deciding to show up this year. Not really sure why. They really haven't been able to get their offense going, and they've never been a defensive powerhouse. They really, really relied on their offense to run up the score, and then their defense is able to play with the lead. And they haven't been able to do that this year, and we've really seen them struggle. So I think that if Aaron Rodgers wants to come out and beat Washington in the Packers, I think that he's going to have the biggest game of the weekend. He's going to have to utilize all of his weapons. I mean, Devontae Adams isn't very good. He's been their wide receiver. He's very ineffective. He drops everything. He's their version of Brandon LaFell, essentially. For all the fury that Patriots fans throw LaFell's direction, they have the same guy in Green Bay and Devontae Adams, where he just drops every single key pass in his direction. And he's had to rely on Randall Cobb, and then they use their tight ends and Richard Rodgers, but they really don't have many players in that Packers offense. And so I think that Aaron Rodgers is really going to have a transcending performance in order for them to move on to the next round.
Well, we are about to find out. We're about an hour away from kickoff time. Real excited this weekend. Rich, it's always great to have you over.
Glad to be here.
Our first ever live pregame preview where we're on the same side on the computer, which is awesome. Hopefully the first of several. I don't know if it's the first of many. Wish I'd made my bed in retrospect, but you know what? You can't win them all. Thanks, buddy. Let's do this. And any final closing comments for us?
No, let's hope that the Patriots have all their cards fall in their favor. You know what? If the Texans win and then the Steelers win, I will be ecstatic to see that go down. But you know what? Let's just cross our fingers that more so than anything, the Patriots players start to return at 100%, because that's going to be more key than any opponent they face.
Amen to that. Everyone enjoy the games. Rich, go get you that beer I owe you from one of the regular season.
Happy holidays,
all right,
everyone.
guys. Take care.